The next story is a call for VAT to be reduced temporarily to 5% for festivals. Now, this is, in particular, this is based on a Facebook post that I saw from Bloodstock. And they say, we want to make sure all festivals get to go ahead. We're losing festivals to increasing supply chain costs, Brexit, and an energy crisis. With Association of Independent Festivals, we're asking the UK government to lower VAT on music festivals from 20% to 5% for a temporary period of 3 years to help keep festivals going. And they've included a link there to what I would guess is a way of contacting your MP to lobby them for this. So what do you reckon? Do you reckon it would make a difference for 3 years?
It's got it, right? It gives the festivals, they're still going to be recovering from the COVID times, let's be honest. Like, they're going to recover that lost income. It gets that money into the system so they can invest in the festivals, invest in their ticketing systems, invest in the bands, invest in the, everything they need to run a festival to just get themselves back on their feet. I think the whole industry shut down for a year, 2 years in most cases, and they still got to be reeling from it. There was all the management of the refunds, the cancellations. Bands probably had contracts they had to pay out for, and all sorts of stuff that places. We've seen a lot of festivals die, and only the ones that have the good financial backing have survived. And a lot of festivals, especially independent ones, don't make a lot of money each year. People think there's loads of money in it, but actually, even your downloads, yes, they make a bit of money. But when you think some of those bands that are headlining cost £1 million a night to book, let alone the infrastructure to put out for a week, there's a lot of money in it. They've got to make it back somehow.
This is it. I mean, it's easy to forget that, if, let's say, Download, they're looking after perhaps 120,000 people for a week. And that's not going to come cheap. You've got to pay for toilets, you've got to pay for water, you've got to pay for infrastructure, and lots of hidden costs that we don't know about. Never mind the entertainment.
Yeah. It's the cost of running a small city.
It is, yeah.
It is literally, yeah.
I mean, we joke, or perhaps half seriously sometimes, talk about putting on Festpod Fest, and I'm always mindful when we've talked in the news about festivals. There was one in the northeast which I forget the name of, and it was quite well booked, but they'd only managed to sell 5% of their tickets.
Yeah, Dominion Fest, that was.
Dominion, yes, you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. It's such a crowded market for rock festivals, never mind anything else. And it must be so difficult to make a profit because you are going up against the likes of Download, Bloodstock, Arctangent. And so how are you going to stand out and get people to buy tickets? How are you going to get them to come and then be profitable?
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, Damnation Festival is a prime example because Gav, the booker, is very open with how that festival runs, what the ticket costs are, if they can afford to start planning next year. He has a ticket tracker to show where his tickets are. And it's not just like 50% sold. It's, okay, safe to start planning next year. Don't have to remortgage the house. And
wow.
He's been running this festival now since, early 2000s. Like, the first one I went to was 2006. So it was a few years prior to that he started. And only just, I think it was last year, has he been able to not comfortably, but do it as a full-time job. So he's been able to step down from his work and actually concentrate on Damnation as a full-time job. But he's on the edge of having to go back if it's a bad year. Like, he's not comfortable at all in that sense. If he has a bad year, he's going back to work. So, and he's very open with that. So it just shows how temperamental things are. And even booking a one-day festival like that is a full-time job. It's managing all the contracts, all the bands, all the food stall holders, all that kind of stuff. It's mental. So it's a fragile world. It's a fragile world.
And when we had Adam Gregory on, it was quite surprising to hear how he's only fairly recently gone onto it as a full-time job.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been working on that festival for years. Like, is it 20 years?
Easily, yeah. It's mental.
And then you've got Vicky who still has another job. She still works elsewhere. So there's clearly not tons of money in doing a festival. As much as we love going to them, as much as we love the experience, to put one on, you've got to be pretty fucking brave, haven't you?
I mean, it's just the industry as a whole. I think it's kind of all of it is struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, look how many venues. I think
the big festivals are struggling. You see the big festivals struggling. You see the grassroots venues. You know, they're all shut. They're dropping like flies.
Yeah.
But then you're seeing all like the big venues, the arenas are making absolute millions.
Yeah, and I
Or
think
posting about it. And you think like
the music venue trust put out a thing which is like, I think it's like between 5 and 10 venues are closing per week.
Wow.
In the UK, like per week, and that's just it's really kind of hard because when you think about your local venues, I think of ones round near me, like the Sugar Mill and the Underground. Very lucky it was 2 in Stoke that are brilliant little venues, but they're on the cusp of surviving, and the only reason they really survive is because they have club nights that make them quite a lot of money, and they don't make vast amounts off the gigs. It's the club nights afterwards, but yeah, it's a fragile place.
Yeah. Also, you look at Moles in Bath. Like we played there not too long. I think about September last year. You see like the wall of all the bands that have played there.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember rightly, I think they're like the last venue of Oasis's first tour
Jesus.
to close.
Yeah.
Like, and like, it was like, what, 90s, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that's quite scary.
That is a bit.
Because I'm looking at Rich and thinking about the TIV, which has 800 cap. That's a small venue, but I mean, how secure do you reckon it is? I mean, I don't want to speculate on their business, but you know, do you reckon it'll be carrying on?
I mean, they did have some hard times a few years ago, but as I said in the last episode, you know, they've invested a lot now in a new front of house system. They're busy. They get a lot of bands and a lot of kind of not small bands either who want to play there because they love the venue from when they played there on the first or second tour years and years ago, and they know they're going to have a good night even though they've only got 800 people in.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, you can see from gig to gig there how thin the knife edge is between whether they have the main bar on the top bar open or just the main bar, and it's like literally they'll only open both bars now if it's totally sold out.
Right.
And it's just, when you think about it, you're saving 5-6 members of staff by not having that bar open. People still queue for the drinks. If they're having to wait a couple of minutes more, they're still going to queue for them.
Yeah. You just buy 2 when you get to the front.
Or 4 or 5, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
As many as you can carry.
You do an Amen.
Rich was doing 2 at Buckcherry, I can confirm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was being sensible. You know, I was only doing 2 at a time.
Yeah.
But
it's got to be done.
but yeah, you know, the venues like that, I do worry about them. But then I look at what they got booked in, and I know I know they're busy. I know they have the odd club night still as well, and I know that it's a venue that's cherished in North East Wales.
Yeah.
But then I've seen other venues in Wrexham, which has got, obviously, it's a bigger place, and you'd expect it to be easier to fill these venues. And they've closed these venues that from when I was kind of like 18, 19.
Yeah. I've got venues like that as well that have closed, and it's heartbreaking, to be honest. You know, places that you used to go to that have shut down and they've turned it into flats. In the case that I'm thinking about, and you just think, fuck, you know, what's the future going to look like? You know,
we've got to keep supporting our local venues. We've got to keep supporting our up and coming bands, and we've got to lobby your MP for things like this, for festivals, for the cut on VAT. It doesn't sound much, but it makes such a big difference to those organisers. It'd give them that little bit of wiggle room, just that little bit easier to break even. I'm not even saying make money, to break even.
Yeah.
Just gives them that little bit of breathing space. They know they're going to have a house.
Yeah.
A few months later, you know, they know they can pay all their suppliers and not be getting chased through the courts. It makes a difference, and I'd urge everybody to lobby their MP, to get them to lobby the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, the Treasury, get it done, because I think a world without live music is a very, very sad and depressing world.
Yeah. Now, the link is for 5% for festivals.com, and there'll be a standard letter, which I would imagine you can alter, and my perspective on it would be that, you know, a festival is an occasion that it's an event that goes on it's once a year, for perhaps a week, or perhaps even a day, a few days. So it's not going to be a massive big difference to the, the Treasury, but it will mean that people can carry on and you're right, Rich. It is so important. So we would urge you to go and look this up. 5% for festivals.com is the place to go.